Okay, welcome back. For those of you that have watched my videos previously, you'll notice that I always have a job card list somewhere in the video. It could be in the beginning, in the middle, or the end of the video. Well, today I'm actually decoding one of the data analyst job listings that I found this week. So stay tuned. So as you saw from my video, this posting seems to be for an entry-level role. But now watch how far I would have to scroll if I had to do that. It would go on and on and on. If you've been job hunting lately, you probably have run into the same scenario where you have a junior level role, what appears to be a junior level role, presenting as a senior role, right? With the responsibilities. Well, you're not imagining it, and of course, you're not by yourself. So before you panic and shut down this post because of all of these pages that you're seeing, stick with me. I'm going to decode what this posting is really asking for and which parts you really need to pay attention to and what matters. I'm also going to turn what seems to be intimidating into an advantage for you in terms of the skill set there. So hang in there. It looks scarier than what it really is. Wait till we get to it, and let's decode this thing together. Okay, so we're going to do a deep dive into these key responsibilities in plain terms. I'm going to take these one by one. So the listing is asking for data cleanup or collect clean and organize data from ERP systems and databases. So what this could look like is that you could be getting data from different sources. You could be getting it from the ERP system that they have, a database. You could even get it from a spreadsheet there. You might even get the data from another department such as finance, and what they'll expect you to do is gather all these data from these different sources. And then before you can do anything else with that data, you're going to have to do data cleanup and organizing it. So when you have data coming from different sources, it's not always in the same format. So to illustrate this, say you have a spreadsheet that you typically use for everything for reporting, right? It could be for graphs or what have you. And you typically use, let's say, five to six columns of data. Well, the data sources that you're using or pulling from outside of your particular spreadsheet or data source may use 10, 15, or 20 columns, and they may have unnecessary pieces of data in there that you don't need. So you would have to strip out the unnecessary data and use the data that aligns with your process. You would also have to remove perhaps duplicates, is what that would look like, to make sure that the data is nice and clean. And if there are any overlaps, you might have to address those. The next thing is that they want you to analyze trends and patterns and also spot anomalies. So what that could look like is, for example, the same box of gloves costs, like say $4 in one hospital and perhaps $11 in another hospital. Well, what's that about? You would have to check that because there would be some inconsistencies there if the expectation was that there was uniform pricing. Another could be that, say, for instance, if shipping costs jumped by 30%, but there was no apparent direct impact or no change in the order volume. Well, what's that all about? So you would have to understand, well, the why did that happen? And if there were influences within the control of the company and outside of the company. Another thing that you would have to do is compare performances against goals. So, for example, here's where partnering with that other department might be possible, where you would have to maybe set budget or set a goal according to the key performance indicators that they have there. So, are you trending in the right direction? Are you above goal, within goal, or not meeting goal? So if that's the case, then the question would be, why is that? Or is the goal unrealistic? And that would have to be reevaluated. So those are just a few of the things that you would want to look for in this. But the main thing that they're pointing out here is the cost savings opportunities. Well, when do cost saving opportunities tend to occur? Is it cyclical? Is it within the control of the department? And so are there many ways? What ways are there for cost savings opportunity? And you would have to find that out within that department. So that's one of the key things that they're looking for, and also flagging any potential risk before they happen, which is really interesting. So we'll go ahead and continue with this next list. So here's where we want to read a little bit of the fine print here. Several of these duties are really business analyst work, partnering across teams and collaborating with many stakeholders. The true data analysis core is a little narrower, using statistical methods here, data visualizations core to present findings and tell a story. So let's just go back and take these a little bit one by one. So data analysis, you're going to be using tools like Excel, Tableau, Power BI, and SQL, and you're going to be digging in that data to find useful insights, right? And so that's a key or core business analyst role there. Where there's an overlap is when it starts to talk about collaborating with many stakeholders or partnering across teams. So you'll notice it also asks for um, knowledge of supply chain and contractors process negotiations. Now that's very specific to the logistics field. Your average data analyst might not have that, but of course there are other transferable skills here. But that contract contracting process and negotiation piece right here adds a whole layer of complexity well beyond a typical junior analyst role. So also, we've got the process improvement piece. That too is a key business analyst metric there. So that these are why I say that there's an overlap and you want to look at this. The good thing about this is that if you are starting out and you want to learn a number of skills and also a stretch role, this is the role that's going to give you that exposure. So that is a good thing that you can use to your advantage. Now let's go on to the next points. So it seems like the partners list keeps growing for this particular role, but some of this is duplication. So it says it wants expert Excel level, ERP systems, data validation, auditing, juggling multiple assignments, taking committee meeting minutes, plus on-site and physical demands. That's a long, senior leaning set of expectations for a role that presents itself as junior. Taken together, this does read as a stretch role, as I mentioned, but I wanted to highlight a couple of manual processes here, and that was the performed clerical duties as requested, such as filing, typing, copying, and faxing. So this particular piece almost reads as if it belongs in another rec. I would ask for clarification about that when they ask you about questions. The other one was the rebates paid, proper price, proper making sure, I guess, proper pricing is implemented. That would make sense. Rebates paid, might want to see. It's just like a bullet point there. But I'm assuming that that would be some analysis for rebates paid. But it doesn't hurt to get clarification. Proper payments of administrative fees. So I would ask that question as well. So this is the list that we have, and I will go ahead and give my synopsis on this in a second. Okay, so we walk through the responsibilities and what they're looking for. So there's another page that addresses the behavioral competencies that they're looking for. And it was about half a page, so I thought it was noteworthy to run through this. I shortened it a little bit so that we could just focus on the key things here. Now, some of this also is redundant, which is also contributing to the length of the post. But here are some things that they pointed out. They wanted someone that would maintain a positive and effective relationship with coworkers, managers, committee members, listens and seeks first to understand. They're talking about actively participating in team meetings. Well, that would be something that we would expect to do, and contributing to contributing members of the group, addressing issues in positive ways by attempting to identify problems and solution to problems rather than fixing blame. So what this tells me right here is that there may have been an issue in the past where there could have been some finger pointing on the team. And so they're making it clear in this posting what their expectation is in reference to that. So sometimes the post can reveal a little bit about what has happened or give you insight in terms of what has occurred within the team without explicitly saying that. Typically, when I see postings like that, that's what comes to my mind. Um, More so than not there. If not, it's just a precautionary. They just want to make sure if that's not on the team, that that's not introduced to the team. You're talking about when individuals have an assignment that they're current on, and it's complete, that you then support other team members. Now, one thing I will have to say, some people might scoff at this right here, but they're letting you know the kind of environment that you're stepping into and what to expect here. Another bullet point is provides professional effectiveness by maintaining personal wellness and balance in life. So that's an interesting sentence. So when you get a job posting, you really want to read it because it can give you a little bit of a flavor of the department and what it is you're stepping into. Okay. So, you can view it as a negative or a positive, or you could view it as a data point that can help you make a decision. But they're not leaving anything to the imagination here. Now, there are a number of different statements like shows respect and dignity to others sprinkled throughout this core competency list. It's a little bit redundant. They're saying the same thing in some different ways and giving a couple of examples, what I just mentioned there. So that's something that you want to always scan the listings for. You never know what you might find. Another thing here that you want to keep in mind here is this. If you're using a job posting to learn about what employers really looking for, try not to get intimidated by the size of the posting or the length of it, but you want to break the posting down into different skill buckets, and then you want to use that skill bucket to determine what you would need to learn, or use that to guide your learning path. So the bottom line is this: if you're trying to move into data analytics, supply chain, for example, or business analysis, this type of posting can show you what skills to build. So you want to focus on your Excel, your SQL, databases, data cleaning, dashboarding, your trend analysis, and your storytelling here. Okay. Um, if you happen to land a role like this, make your resume match the real scope and show the data analysis core, such as statistics, visualization, storytelling. Claim that business analyst overlap, such as the cross team partnering and stakeholder work. Highlight your process improvement and risk spotting. Don't just say, well, I just built reports or I did data cleanup. You might be able to demonstrate how, in fact, you did that. Add the supply chain contracting and negotiation exposure for the next role, right? And frame this stretch role like it really is. So you want to go ahead and frame it as a stretch role. I'll repeat that it really is. And that is going to be the advantage that you have in your next role. Well, that's my decode of this job listing. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.